All right, we're live. Yay, we did it.
Beautiful.
We did it. We did it. We did it. Hey, everybody, excited for today's. This is really like a lunch and learn that I'm doing. You guys know if you've been following me for any amount of time, I'm very passionate about closing the wealth gap. And I think the only way to start closing the wealth gap, Hank, is to have conversations about equity. Where there's no equity, there's not going to be wealth. And it's the greatest way. And I'm really passionate about having this discussion with people of color, and particularly statistics are showing right now that people of color have not grown in home ownership since segregation. I think there are a few things that are at play on that, and I want to help to close that up. I think access to capital is one, education is another, credit, those kinds of things. And when you have years and years and years and years of financial trauma, you have to work more aggressively, I think, to really advance and bring change. And though I think there are a lot of people of color, though I love everyone, I think there are a lot of people of color that are winning, but I think there is still a lot more that has to be done. And so my company, we started our company because I wanted to be able to put people in a position where they could get educated and then have the support that they need so that they could step out and not just own their own home, but eventually become investors where they're now beginning to take more territory, because that's really the only way to close the wealth gap. Hank, you and I both know that real estate is bullish and rent is bullish. They're both always going up, right? Even if
Mhm.
there's a pullback, overall it's going to be going up. And so I definitely have some concerns about people that don't get in on this equity play. And you've been an investor for how long have you been an investor, by the way?
Uh, so first of all, thanks for having me, Joel. It's a pleasure. Really excited about this. I've been investing now in real estate for probably around 15 years, and proud to say my first real investment was actually in Detroit. So a lot of what you say speaks loud and true to me. But 15 years, it was when I first purchased my first home as an investment.
Wow, 15 years. And what made you, so was this your own home or was this an investment property?
That's a very good question. I looked around me. I think it ironically echoes a lot of what you say. I was a banker for many years, and I looked around me and I said, there's a common denominator about affluent people who I saw around me. I didn't grow up that way, but I looked around and there was oftentimes a very common denominator. And that, in fact, was owning real estate. And I said to myself, it might not be the only way to sort of, increase your wealth, and not even your own personal wealth, but generational wealth. And that common denominator seemed to me to, in large part, be owning real estate, hard assets, but specifically real estate. And, perhaps we could talk about some reasons why. But that's what made me get into the real estate game. And I started very, very, very small. A lot of people ask me, why'd you start with one home? Why was it so cheap? Why was it in Detroit? There's only one reason for that. I didn't have big bucks to go buy something big, and I didn't know what I was doing. And so I figured I would start small, and that's how I started. And I'd like to just tell you in the audience, there's no such thing as starting too small. Whether it's an apartment or just a small affordable house, one grows into two, and then two doesn't necessarily grow into three, it grows into four, and four can grow into eight. And there's this multiplier effect. And that's kind of a little bit about my background. But yeah, that's what intrigued me about the real estate game. Several other things about it I've come to learn are very advantageous in this industry. But that's what intrigued me and got my foot in the door to begin with.
That's good. So once you experienced that monthly income coming in, were you more attracted to holds or flips?
Wow, what a good question. I get asked that, a lot. Why don't you flip? Why don't you flip? There's people look at it and say there's so much quick money in flips. I'm just not a quick money type of person. It's just not in my nature. And I've seen a lot of people, get hurt kind of with flips. Obviously, a lot of people made a lot of money with flips. It's not something that I do. I'm a long-term person. And so for me, it was the steady rental income, but knowing that I'll still sort of benefit from the capital appreciation over time. And so to me, it's a long game. Do it right, acquire a portfolio. And again, Joel, when I looked around and I saw some, frankly, just to be honest, fairly wealthy people or successful people, a lot of times they were still sitting on a large portfolio. You didn't see the, you know, the wealthy person and say, oh, they made their money by flipping. What do? They own, not owned, own real estate. And that was a key distinction. And so I always played the small game. And, you know, rather than sell, I said to myself, and I know we've spoken about this in the past, rather than sell, I can take out a lot of the proceeds through financing and double up my portfolio by purchasing another unit. And that's where the 1 becomes 2, the 2 becomes 4, and so on and so forth. So I said, I won't get to keep all the money right now, and it will stress me. But if done properly, with proper management, and that's key, then we can build a portfolio and generationally sort of change the landscape, even for, you know, your offspring, your family, your friends, and so on and so forth. That's been my experience, and that's what sort of drove me towards the rental and to obsess on the importance of management.
Yeah, obsessed. That's the word. That's a key word. And I want to get into what kind of things you look for. I'm going to talk about what I look for. And again, for those of you that are watching right now that have maybe been standing on the sideline and saying, hey, you know what, I've been thinking about it. I want to really encourage you to take the plunge. The information is right there at the bottom. You can go ahead and send your info. To get more info, send your information to info@certifiednow.com. We have amazing people, part of the community like Hank, that are really here to help and support and help you build. Okay, so I want to talk about what you look for. But before we get there, I want to ask you, you know, because one of the reasons that I decided to really get involved, I got involved in real estate in 2017. I had no clue what I was doing. I always just knew, Joyce, that, hey, girl, welcome to the call. Y'all make sure y'all share this feed. This is really good conversation. But I always wanted to get into real estate. But honestly, I just didn't know where to start. And I got started because I had a mentor, and he helped to say, hey, this is a good deal. This is why it's a good deal. And I really didn't know what I was doing, Hank. I was really running it kind of ghetto. I had a property manager from a guy that I went to church with. He'd knock on the door and be like, Keisha. I mean, it was real ghetto. But even though I didn't really have the systems and stuff in place, next thing I know, I had built a 7-figure portfolio. I went from buying, 5 homes to 10 to 20 to 30. I think I got up to about 40 homes. And we had a lot of tenants in them. And again, it wasn't ran well. So it was very stressful. And so I ended up kind of focusing a little bit more on crypto, did very well in crypto, and then came back to build the same way that I did in crypto and now in real estate. And one of the things that I noticed it then, but I think I'm more aware now, that I don't see a lot of people that look like me, percentage wise, right? Are there people that look like me? Absolutely. Are there women in real estate? Absolutely. But when you start talking about a percentage wise, right? Hank, just honestly, your property management company, I'm very impressed with your property management company. You're managing multifamilies for me. And we're going to be doing a lot of things together. But honestly, who are a lot of the players that you see as a whole?
Interesting. So honestly, and there's no confidentiality issues here because no one knows my clients aside for you, but not a lot of women, not a lot of women owners in it. That I can tell, at least from what I see. There might be in other areas. My, specialization from a geographical perspective, our geographical footprint is almost exclusively Detroit, the greater Detroit area, Detroit and surrounding areas. Really not a lot of women owners, not that are our clients. I've come across some large ones, but they're in the minority for sure. Why? I don't know. I really don't know. Part of it could be preference, to be honest. I don't know. People tick differently. Men and women tick differently. Statistically, it's hard to imagine that's the only thing. I don't know, just because it's so skewed. But yeah, so that's definitely interesting. But no, the vast majority of them are, I would say, men. We do have men of different colors for sure, different races, but not a lot of women. That is definitely true.
Yeah. So, I mean, to me, okay, I think, investing in real estate, it's a little, it's a little sharky, right? You got to be pretty clear on what you want. You have to be aggressive. You definitely have to persist. And not that women can't be clear, not that they can't be aggressive, not that they can't persist. But I could see being a woman, and I love being a woman. I'm feminine. There's nothing about me that's masculine. I could see how a woman could feel, being in an environment that's male dominated, because I think you have to have some guts. You got to have a little gutsy to you. Would you think?
Oh
Hank,
yeah,
being a
you
man,
got to be able to be. You can't be scared of conflict. I actually think that that's true in a lot of different industries. I felt that throughout my career, but certainly in real estate. Look, when it comes to purchase agreements and what's a big difference? I'll pay an extra 10 grand or 20 grand or 100 grand or $1 million or $5,000 a door, and you got to say no. I'm not going to do that. So you absolutely have to have that resolve. Having said that, we've spoken about owners. I'll tell you that the person who runs almost my entire company, my COO, is a woman, and she is fantastic. She is a huge role model for people looking to get into the space and looking to sort of stand up for themselves and push back and create space. Just fantastic at that, and that's worth just mentioning. But yeah, it's absolutely. I don't want to say it's cutthroat, but when you're in the purchase agreement phase, it's intense. It's intense. Your gain is my loss. My loss is your gain. That's the reality.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right. I think it can be intense, and I think you have to be very clear on what you want, and not be afraid to push back, not be afraid to walk away from a deal, but also not be afraid to make sure the deal is not taken from you as well. So I think your resolve has to be very, very, very clear. And you've been, a help to me even in, a deal that we're doing now. But the point is that I want to make sure people understand that are on here. Real estate is not something you just want to wake up and be like, oh, I just want to jump into it. I'm going to watch YouTube, because every single step of the way, you're going to probably run into things that you were not ready to run into. And the reason that I'm such a big stickler on when you do get a property that you're not flipping and that you're holding, because you need to absolutely be holding as well. I like both, but definitely holding. You don't need to try to manage that property yourself. You trying to get tenants in there. You trying to collect rent. You trying to make sure that, updates are happening on the property. I mean, there's a lot that comes with being an investor. And I think I've learned that the best thing you can do is hire your weakness. Don't try to do everything as an investor. I know some investors who try to do everything, and to me, they're always stressed out. One of the things that I don't want to see from my clients is that you live a life of frustration, because things are always going to be happening. One of the things that, when we first met, I was really impressed when I said, as a property manager, getting ready to take over my apartment, what are some of the things that you're going to do? And I was so impressed with all the details and the systems that you had set up. Why is it important for an investor to have a property manager like yourself, Hank? What are some of the things that your company does?
Wow. So, first of all, the biggest mistake that I see people make is that they come to us, but they come to us so late in the game, and so much damage has been done. And I always give the example, we're not flying F-16s here. We're riding oil tankers. You can turn the wheel, you won't see anything. And 6 months later, all of a sudden, you'll start to see results. As an example, you get stuck with bad tenants. You have to make a change. You have to interact with them properly. It's going to take months for them to change their behavior, or unfortunately, jump ship and put in different tenants, just say, hey, look, this isn't working out. But that takes a long time. And so once that mistake has been made, you're looking at 6, 12 months and God knows how much money. So it can be an incredibly costly mistake to not go with proper management, whoever that is, but make sure that management is proper. Now, with respect to what we do, it is all about the details. People tell me I'm very intense. I'm very intense. I say, I don't know how to be successful in business without being intense. It's no different than being an athlete or being good at anything else. Have you ever seen a good athlete and say, you know what, he's such a good athlete, he's such a good basketball player, and he's not even intense? Doesn't exist. And that's a fallacy. It doesn't exist. Yeah, you got to be intense. It's my trade. I'm passionate about it. We're all about systems, all about accountability, all about culture. We demand accountability from the people we work with, to the point that, unfortunately, if it doesn't exist, we have to move on, because we have a fiduciary responsibility to our clients. And so we have no choice. We have to reward our good employees. And to do that, we cannot reward both good and bad employees. It's just not possible. Life is sometimes a little bit unfair, although I wouldn't call that unfair. I'd actually call it unfair to not reward my good employees because I'm rewarding the people that don't care or don't have respect for the company, don't put the clients above themselves, above their ego or whatever else it is. We are pedantic about systems. We are pedantic. Everything's got a system. Every group's got an owner. Every initiative's got an owner. Every client's got an owner. If there's no ownership, things that aren't tracked, managed, aren't tracked, they're just simply not managed well. And so everything has accountability. Every piece has to have an accountability, from collections to leasing to reporting. Reporting is another big thing. If you want to see that you're veering off course, you want to see that early, because again, it's going to take a long time to course correct. And so you want to see right when it's starting. You got to see that leading indicator. And the only way to see that is through the numbers, through the analytics. And again, all of that, Jewel, goes back to what you're saying. Can one person do all that for their portfolio? Do they have the tools? Do they know what it takes? Do they have the infrastructure? Likely not.
That's why the investors that I know that are trying to manage their own properties are pulling their hair out, because everything from the background check to the criminal check to making sure the landscaping is done, especially if you're in another city. That's a whole nother thing. I don't want to be bothered. I just want to focus on doing deals and then plug and play and say, hey, Hank, here's another property, and not get into, the details of it at all. So
Jewel,
one of the things that you did,
that's a really good point, because the other cost to trying to do everything on your own is a massive cost that's actually not seen, which is if you're doing background checks. Let's say, take you, Jewel, for example. You're doing background checks. You're on Zillow. You're doing leasing. You're doing collections. By definition, you're not buying your next building, and your most precious thing is your time, right? Your intellectual capital. So if you're spending it on vetting a tenant, which is very important, that means you're not spending it on looking for the next deal and looking for that next purchase agreement. And in the long run, maybe you got the best tenant, or probably not, because management will do it better. But the cost was not buying that next building. And that's a massive cost.
Yeah, no, that's really, really, really good. And I think that's important for every investor, because you've got to look at your net operating income. And, and I look at my days and I say, I got to spend my days, Trina, making sure that I'm minimizing expenses, that I'm doing income generating activity. And if I get into doing labor when I should be creating a deal, that's why I want every woman on here to have a housekeeper and man. You need help. I don't want to spend my time doing laundry. I need to be working on the next 7-8 figure deal. Honestly, that's what you need to be thinking. Your time is.
I love it.
You don't need to be, even though you need to know how to do a little bit of everything. I know how to clean. I know how to cook. I know how to do laundry, and I know how to do deals. But I would rather spend my time taking care of my husband and my children, or doing something with my family, or doing another deal, than washing clothes. So I think you have to really become a protector of your time and be honest with, what do you want out of life? What do you really want your life to look like? Where do you really want to live? What do you really want to drive? Do you want to just be like a lot of people and it just looks all good, but everything is a financial mess? No, you want real wealth. And that means that your decisions have to be sound. Your discretion and how you're spending your time has to be sound. These things are really important, because wealth impacts every single area of your life, right? Hank, it's crazy to think wealth impacts where you go grocery shopping. Am I not right?
Oh my God. You know what? Some people feel this is a taboo topic, but it's not. It impacts how you treat your spouse, how you treat your kids, what you think about, how stressed out you are. It impacts everything, the opportunities. It's not everything. We all know it's not everything. But who said this once, it doesn't guarantee happiness, but it paves the way. Let's put it that way.
Listen. People talk about all I need is love and peace. Ain't gonna be no love and peace if these bills ain't paid.
That's right. That's right.
I'm telling you right. And it's important to recognize that, because I think you won't, if you're not, you have to be honest and authentic with yourself. It impacts where your children go to school. It impacts where they spend the summer, whether they spend the summer at YMCA or University of Scotland. It impacts literally every single area of your life. And so my thing is, I want every person to have a quality of life. I want women, Cynthia, to be in a position to be able to make decisions without 5 family meetings. If you need to buy your mom a house for $500,000, but your husband says, let's just spend $100,000, you opposed to him going and saying, honey, can I? You're in a position to say, honey, guess what I did? Because you have your own independent wealth. Everyone needs to have their own independent wealth. I'm a firm believer of that. Now, I want to talk to you about the deals. I think looking at the cap rate when you're buying holds is very, very important, right? What are some of the things that you look for? Because I look for the expenses, the property management, the property insurance, the property taxes, and looking at that, taking the expenses, dividing it by the purchase price, making sure that that cap rate is well over 10%. Anything over 15 is really a win. But imagine picking up properties where you're getting a cap rate of 30%, 20%, 15%, and you keep doing that. Like you said, over time, the compounded interest to me is much better than the stock market all day, any day. But hey, what are some of the things that you look for when buying a multifamily to determine if this is a good deal? And I also want to know, do you buy most of your properties off market or on?
Wow. Great conversation here, Jewel. So first of all, we do a lot of single family as well, believe it or not. Single family has become just a institutional sort of asset class. It used to be all multifamily. Multifamily is huge. It's still the biggest asset class in the residential space. Single family is getting there though. It's massive. What do I look at? So of course the numbers are critical. Not only, is it how much compounded return you can make, it's how much mortgage you could carry. So the higher cap rate you have, the more mortgage you could carry, the more you could double up, triple up, quadruple up, you know what I mean, and scale. So either you keep that cash in your pocket or you say, you know what, I could service another building here, take out another mortgage. So it's very, very important. And look, at the end of the day, liquidity is what kills people. By liquidity, I mean your monthly money that comes in, cash money. Doesn't matter how much it's worth on paper. If tonight you can't pay the property tax bill that's due, the bank won't be happy, the building won't be yours. Problem. Doesn't matter how much it's worth. You can't sell it overnight. So liquidity is critical, as you say. The cap rate is critical. Some other things that I look at are, I guess I would call it intrinsic value. So for example, in Detroit offers opportunities to buy properties, whether it's homes or multifamily buildings, at prices far, far cheaper, Jewel, than what it would take to build them these days. So what does that tell you? It tells you that no one's really going to build more of those, because by the time they're done building it, say it costs $100,000 to build a home or a building, doesn't matter. Let's say $1 million, but it's only worth in the market $700,000. No one's going to buy it after you build it, which means no one's going to build it, because who would spend $1 million to build something that they could then turn around and sell at $700,000, which is a $300,000 loss? No one. What does that mean? It means that building will stop. It means that the supply of these things is restricted. Once supply is restricted, more demand per supply happens, and the prices will naturally inch toward that replacement cost or the cost to build. So that's oftentimes a gut check for me. So I'll look at buildings. It's not my only metric. That cap rate is critical. It's probably the most important metric. But that is also a little gut check for me. So sometimes I'll see buildings or homes and I'll say, okay, I'm buying this for $60 a square foot. Today, with construction costs, it's not going to cost less than $150 to $200 to build it. So it's kind of a matter of time, in my opinion, until the prices converge to that. And so that gives me a lot of comfort when I'm buying, as opposed to buying a property that costs $1 million to produce today, but selling for, let's say, $2.5 million. Well, there's going to be some greedy or capitalistic, which I like, developers out there are going to say, hell, why don't we build more of these? It costs $1 million. We can turn around and sell it tomorrow for 2.5. So they'll keep building until that price will come down and reflect that. So that's another thing that I really look at, just as a high level sort of taste test for me of if it makes sense or not. It's a longer term thing. And again, that won't feed the family day one, but it gives you some comfort that you're getting a good deal on things. With respect to whether I buy on market or off market, I can tell you that 95% 5% of the properties I've purchased have been off market, actually. Now, that might be unique to Detroit, Southwest, Northwest Detroit, where I purchase. But at this point, I know the market well. I know probably all the major sort of actors in our market space, be it property managers, builders, just real estate actors. And so I'm able to sniff out deals before they hit the market, make quick deals, and essentially lower my buy-in price.
Yeah, no, that's good. All of mine are off market too. I don't think I bought anything on market. And I try to encourage, our clients to do the same thing. I think you're going to save a whole lot more money than buying on market. That's great. One of the things I think, we talked a little bit about this that I like, you look at your clients' portfolio and kind of see where they are. Hey, maybe we can make a laundry room here. Maybe we can make, do some upgrades. Maybe we do an upgrade per unit. Every time they move out, we do a turn. Let's put in granite counters. Then we'll be able to, increase rent by this much. Maybe we can offer a pet service. Maybe we can offer a garbage service. There are a lot of different little extra things that tenants will pay for. The little concierge, if you will, even though they're Section 8 and V8, which I think you have, or do you find, or do you leave it up to the landlord to say, hey, I want Section 8 or V8, or I want only, just regular paying tenants that are working? And I guess it's probably going to depend on location, what you suggest, but what does that look like when you're talking to an investor?
So one of the things I pride myself on, and I actually only got into the property management for other people. I used to manage only my own properties, was because I had already built the system, so it just made sense to take on other people's properties at this point. But one of the things we pride ourselves at DET Homes Property Management is looking at everybody's asset through an owner's lens. And luckily, it's not hard for us because for 10 years, that's all we did. It was all through the owner's lens, which was me. And so now when we take on other properties, we're already sort of trained to only look at it through an owner's lens. So we'll tell you, even if it costs a little bit more money now, it's worth it. It's worth doing this. It'll add value. The next time you go to refinance, and we were able to add a bathroom, which maybe costed you a few $1,000s, well, they just valued your home or your apartment at $20,000 more. You're going to get that money back 10 times over your life, literally 10 times over. So that's something we really, really pride ourselves is to look at your property through our ownership lens. And that really means that essentially we're not just property management company. We're an asset management company. We look at your asset as a whole, not just the day-to-day collect rent, put tenants in, how do we think about, we look about, do you want to sell this property? Do you want to refinance it? We have connections at the bank. We have a lot of lenders we work with. They trust us at this point. And so we connect our clients with a lot of lenders as well. So we really pride ourselves on being not just property management company, but an asset management company. And those two things are very, very different.
Yeah, no, that's really, really good. And I think that was the thing that impressed me, the whole asset management. Now, let's just say you're managing, 15 doors for someone, and you are like, oh, it might be better to sell this one and upgrade it. Because I like, I invest in Detroit pretty much only, but, I still have my boundaries that I'm like, okay, I'm not going here. You know what I mean? Absolutely. Because I rather be in the areas that revitalization are happening. And I think that's important. Like you got to have a couple different pairs of eyes, I think, on every deal. I don't care how smart you are. I think it's good to say, hey, Hank, look at this. Or, hey, Phil, look at this. What do you think about this deal? Okay, I like this deal. I like this location, or I like this deal, but these are my concerns. Like you want to have a property management company that, like you said, not just property, but really asset management, because there's a lot of creative things that you can do. Like you said, pull out the cash, use it to, on a down payment on another property. I mean, there's a lot of different things that you can do. As we get ready to wrap here, I want to encourage you guys to make sure you email your information to info@certifiednow.com. Many of you have been watching on the sideline and saying, hey, I'm really kind of ready to get started. I'm really ready to invest. I do have concerns about the overall economy. And I think that I think we're headed to people are either going to be rich or poor. I'm not I feel like the middle class is going to take the biggest beating. And I think that the way to protect yourself, your family, your legacy is real estate. What are your honest feeling on that?
Could not agree more. It sounds weird to say this, Jewel, but I think we're headed towards. Someone told me this, and it sort of stuck with me. We're headed towards a world where there's going to be landowners and non-landowners. You know what I mean? Those who own real estate and those who don't. And it's a little bit sad that we're headed there, but the system is bigger than the two of us here. We don't make the rules, but we may as well play by them. And I really, really agree with that, because it's becoming unaffordable on all levels to own real estate. Get in while you can, get in smartly, be prudent about it. But I think it's slipping away. Look, it's even slipping away from a home ownership perspective. In the past 10 years, it's just totally almost slipped away. And so time is not on your side, and that's a really, really, really good point. And real estate is just a proven sort of store of wealth in the long run. So I think you hit it right on there, Jewel. Could not agree more with that.
Yeah. And I think too, really quickly, Hank, I think what I'm seeing in Detroit, I really feel like over the next 5 years, and this is why people are coming from all over the world to invest. I'm probably sure you have a good amount of international investors, right? What percentage would you say of international investors you have out of the United States?
So the percentage that are out of Detroit is like 90, and out of the United States is probably around, I would say, 50 to 60%.
Wow. Okay. I really feel like what's going to happen in the next 5 years in the city of Detroit is that if you don't get in now, if you don't seize the moment now, you're going to be priced out. I have a good girlfriend that's an investor out of New Jersey. She started investing in New Jersey, I think she said 2007, 2008. She built a nice portfolio. She sold a lot of it. She's now back kind of investing. And she said, I can't even think about investing in New Jersey. She says, it's priced out. Like, it makes no sense. There is no cap rate. What are you talking about? Like, there's no opportunity for buy and hold. There's no opportunity for buy and flip. And if you do buy and hold, it's going to take you a few years before you really start being in positive cash flow. I've heard that about Atlanta. It's definitely like that in Florida. It's like that in Arizona. So I tell people, don't get stuck on the city you live in. Look at the math. If the math doesn't match, go where the math maths. In Detroit right now, the math is mathing. But I really feel like people who just keep waiting, in 5 years, the people that have really focused and kept investing in Detroit, that in the next 5 years, they'll be wealthier than they could ever dream or imagine. One of the gifts that God has given me is the ability to know when things are shifting, to know when to enter into a particular industry and when to come out. And I am so urgent on this thing where real estate is concerned, for women in particularly. And I feel that strongly. You got like within the next 5 years, you need to start making a move. And if you can find a city where the math, go have at it. But I'm just telling you right now, Detroit is on the map, and people are looking globally from all over the world, looking at Detroit as a hot spot and getting in with great aggression.
So true. It's one of the only games left in town, to be honest. You look around the nation, where is it affordable? Detroit's one of the only things still standing that's affordable, to be honest with you. And it's rejuvenating like crazy. I know you know that. I don't need to tell you about that. You just got to get the right management, whoever it is. You got to get the right management if you're not local. But literally, it's one of the last chances for small investors to get into the real estate game.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I believe that with everything. I mean, Hank, this is so much fun today. Thank you so much for jumping on here. I know you guys are blessed. Make sure you send email your information to info@acetifiednow.com. One of the team members will reach out to you and then put you on a Zoom with me. We'll get you into this beautiful, wonderful world of investing, and you'll have great people to work with like Hank and his company, and they're just doing phenomenal things. You guys know I don't bring anybody on here that I don't believe in or that I'm not working with, right? And so if they're on here, it's because I trust them and they know what the heck they're talking about. So Hank, again, thanks so much for jumping on. Everybody have a great day. Bye-bye.